Hi, welcome to Salt and Burn This. I'm Sami.
And I'm Valerie.
And this is our Supernatural Rewatch podcast.
Each week, we're going to break down an episode in order with lots of details, so nothing's left out.
And we throw in some personal nuggets and stories and research to mix it up just a little bit.
Because not only are we fans of the show, but like Sam and Dean, we've also had our fill of road trips.
Yeah, but for theater, not for hunting ghosts and demons.
And not in a super sexy muscle car.
Anyway, shall we?
We shall.
Well, cheers to being done with your season.
Thank you.
Uncheers for being done with the place forever.
with the company forever. Yes, I'm excited. It was a hard season. I thought it was going to be like one of our easier seasons to do, and it turned out to be super difficult. And then on top of it, the company closed. So, yay! Aw.
Yeah.
So, but again, I knew.
Bummer.
Yeah, I knew it was coming. So I've had more time to deal with it emotionally than the rest of the company. So yeah, there's a lot of angry people out there, and not just the company members, but patrons and the town, that this theater is in. A lot of outrage, and a lot of tone deafness by the board, and trying to listen to us. And yeah, they literally are, closing us down, closing the conservatory, which is the young artist program, is probably going down to nothing as well. And yet they erected a sign in front of a building that says, a fundraiser to, renovate this building over here. It's like, wow, how tone deaf are you? Begging for money to renovate a building that's standing, as opposed to let's raise money for the arts that, have been around for 94 years. This opera company has been around for 94 years. And they're just like, nah, it's easier to just let it go.
Jesus. Yeah.
But on a happy note, the shows were fantastic.
Good.
It was a really cool experience. Really cool. A little irony that we did Sweeney Todd, the Demon, Barbara Fleet Street, so that all during rehearsal, I was like, singing, the Demon, Barbara Fleet Street. And I was like, hey, Sam and Dean, they battle demons, but this guy is a real demon, like this guy is, Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett are demonic people.
Yes.
So I was always thinking about Supernatural during Sweeney Todd. Just slightly, not like, hey, everybody.
Yeah.
Do you watch Supernatural? Because they hunt ghosts and demons. Sweeney Todd just slices people up, and Mrs. Lovett serves them into meat pies. On that note, let's record a podcast.
Season 4, Episode 18, The Monster at the End of This Book. An author has been writing books about Sam and Dean since 2005. The boys try to figure out how he knows so much about them. Story by Julie Siege. Teleplay by Julie Siege and Nancy Weiner. Directed by Mike Roll.
Okay.
I'm so sad for anyone with that last name. It's just like, oh.
Yeah. Could you put an H in there? Weiner?
Yeah.
No. Because we're all children.
Yep.
We're just all children. Speaking of children, the monster at the end of this book is a Sesame Street book.
Did you not know this?
I did not.
Okay, so I remember in the last episode when I said something like, I actually know what this is referring to. And you said something, I don't remember what it was. It was like, I don't think she
Valerie
does.
knows.
No.
No, I mean, once I looked it up, yes, I remember the book.
Oh, okay.
But you have to remember that there's a lot more time between the time that you last saw that book title and when I
Not
last saw that book
not that much
title.
more time. Not that much more time. And I'm gonna use your sister's argument against you. You
I
have
know.
nieces
Yeah,
and nephews. I have none of those things.
Yes, I'm a terrible person. um, yeah. So Grover,
Mhm.
it's a Sesame Street book about Grover.
It's a very
And
cute book.
it's very cute, but it's like him trying to like, scare children away from like getting to the end of the book because, don't go to the end of the book. There's a monster at the end of the book.
He himself is also scared. He's just like,
Right.
oh no, I don't want to meet the monster. Stop turning the pages. That you're just getting closer to the end of the book. We're gonna meet the
And,
monster. Why would you do that? And then
and
he's
then
the monster at
he's
the
like,
end of this
oh,
book.
but brilliant writing though, because it was actually written to get kids to want to read to the end of
Yeah.
the book.
Yeah.
Which, when you're little, you don't do that. You just like you want to see what the book is about. And then once you do, you're like me.
Hmm.
But yeah, so the monster at the end of this book, amazing.
Parents everywhere hated it, I'm sure. Having to read it over and over and over and over again. Because I was one of those kids, that
Read it again.
when I got stuck on a book, it was a nightly thing for a very long time.
Yeah, but that is every child with almost any book
Yeah,
written.
that's true.
So
All right. So our then, there is no then.
nope.
No recap. And I can't, has there been an episode where there was no recap before?
I think there's probably one.
I do feel like there was one other one that I was
that
like,
just
oh
jumped
wow,
in.
it just jumped right in, probably because they just had to get all the time in that they needed.
Yeah. And this is also one that didn't start with a horrible murder or a mysterious death of any kind.
In fact, nobody dies in this episode.
You are correct. I just went through the list. I was like, Sammy, you are correct.
Nobody dies. But yeah, the teaser itself is, well, I was going to say it's a continuation of the episode, but they're all continuations of the episode, but it's not like the boys are involved in the teaser.
Right.
It's not something that happened that then the boys find out later before the title splash. When I say teaser, I mean pre-title splash.
Pre-title splash. Yeah.
Usually it's like a family or a couple that got in an argument and then, he stabs her with a knife.
Right. That was actually one of my questions is what brings Sam and Dean into this episode?
No one knows. It's never explained because it starts off with the guy in a robe on a couch, drunk and passed out, having fits from a dream. And then it kind of like flashes into the scene where the boys as FBI agents walk into a comic book store and ask questions about the building being haunted.
Right. As they do.
Yes.
Or as they have. It's a typical scene somewhere in Supernatural.
Yeah. And I did write down, what were their aliases? They were...
DeYoung and Shaw.
From what band? Styx?
Styx. Yep.
Styx. So they're asking these questions, and then the manager gives an unexpected reaction. Be like, "Oh, I know what you guys are doing. You're LARPing."
And the guys are like, LARPing.
Come again?
Yeah, which is the first time that they mention LARPing in Supernatural, not the last. But yeah, live action role playing. So the comic book shop owner thinks these guys are like fans of two characters in a comic book. Mm-hmm. And he's like trying to be like, that book, Supernatural, you're those two guys. And he lists these names that are like, Sal and Dane and what was the other one?
Steve and
Dirk. And I wrote down, I said, were these names ever actually character options? Like, were they ever names that were floated as the actual names for the characters?
That would be funny.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, he's like, you're those, and Sam and Dean are like, you mean Sam and Dean? Yeah. Those guys who travel around trying to like hunt ghosts using fake rock aliases, like fake, badges with.
He's got their MO down flat.
Yeah, and they're just like,
oh shit,
like, what books, that never really took off, and they weren't very popular.
Yeah.
So they didn't sell for very long. Kind of had a cult underground following, and I was like, totally true, because again, I didn't watch the show when it was on.
Yeah,
I didn't find out about it until it was on repeats,
right, on Netflix.
Yep, well, on the WB, but it was on. Okay. It was always on. It was always on repeat after Charmed.
Ah,
yeah.
I
mean, I'm not a fan of Charmed. It was just a show.
That was the order. That was the order that it's on. Still, it's on like TNT or something like that. But yeah, he goes to the bargain bin, pulls out a book. It's the first edition, and it's all about the woman in white. So immediately, all the boys say, "We're going to need all the copies of this title that you have in the store."
But it's not just like a book. The cover art on this book.
Oh yes, because we see this a little bit like in the title. The title splash is not our usual title splash. It's like a new fun. It's kind of like the Christmas one. They did something different, and there was the monster movie one. They did something different. Mm-hmm. This is something different, and it's like a very cheesy 80s guitar riff of the cover art of this book. And Sam looks like Fabio, a shirtless Fabio. And that's pretty much all you need to know about.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's Fabio with the long hair. He's holding a shotgun. He's standing in front of the Impala, and I think the other guy, the dark-haired guy, is holding, like, I'm assuming it's a bag of salt, it's like on his shoulder. Vest, no shirt. Total like bodice ripper type of romance novel cover, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And so the title splash, like you said, after the title splash, the credits were all of these cover arts for all the books. So you saw the Woman in White one, you saw Scarecrow, Wendigo, Route 666, the Benders.
Wendigo. Okay.
Yeah, because there was like it was kind of like a monstery thing.
Yeah, I was like, is that one of those weird children, from the kids that were all right? I couldn't tell what that one was because I didn't see the title of it.
I think it was Wendigo.
You're probably right. And then Bobby is in there somewhere. Bobby looks like Bobby. Like, he doesn't look like a bodice ripper, like super buff guy. He's just Bobby.
Maybe I thought Bobby was Benders. Maybe I mistook Bobby as like a redneck guy from
Maybe
Benders.
I mistook a Benders for Bobby.
Bobby. Oh.
But anyway,
back to Fabio. Anyway, fabulous. And the title splash was Supernatural by Carver Edlund.
Yes. And of course, Carver Edlund is a conglomerate name of two of the writers on the show, Jeremy Carver and Ben Edlund. Yep. Which together, it honestly makes a great pen name.
It totally does.
Carver Edlund.
Carver Edlund.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is funny that when you meet Carver Edlund, you're like, oh, because he's just like completely disheveled, sleeps in his bathrobe with dirty boxers.
But before we get into the episode, just a couple call outs of guest stars.
Oh, yes.
We have Rob Benedict as Chuck, who we'll meet in just a few. I know him best from Waiting, which is kind of a cult classic comedy, raunchy comedy, I guess. I don't think it did very well, but I loved it because it's all about being a waiter or a server, like that kind of world in a restaurant. Waiting. Yes. Ryan Reynolds is in it.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. And he's Ryan Reynolds, being himself. And Rob Benedict plays like basically the exact same guy as this guy, just like really kind of nervous, twitchy, like, oh, I don't know.
Oh my God.
The guy who plays Sweets in Bones is in it.
Oh my gosh, I love him.
Yeah. Anyway, I loved that movie. It's not that great, but it just, I felt like some solidarity with it, just because if you've ever been a server in a restaurant, you can identify with this movie.
Gotcha.
And at least one part. And I don't know this actress very well, but just calling her out because she's a Supernatural repeat. Keegan Connor Tracy, she plays the publisher, who we'll also meet in just a minute. She was on Usual Suspects as Karen Giles. Giles. Yes.
Giles, yeah. Giles, whatever. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Totally didn't recognize her. No, that's great.
All right.
Yeah,
so,
she has a great part in this too.
Yes.
As the publisher.
Yeah.
Publicist, yeah.
After the title splash, we see a pile of Supernatural books on the bed. Basically the same ones that we saw from the title splash. There's Wendigo, Scarecrow, The Benders, Route 666, which Dean is reading. 666.
The racist 666. Truck.
Yeah, the racist truck and him having sex.
He's like, this is everything about us. He's like, the racist truck, even me having sex.
Yeah,
is in this book. Like, this is bad.
Yeah, all the details are parallel. And Sam has found fan websites. Oh dear. Now, I was never like a fan website person for anything.
No, me neither.
I can only imagine what a fan website would be in 2009. I don't think anything near what the fandom is like now,
right? Especially given what the one thing they describe as like the shocking thing that they find on the website. I mean, it talks about there's always the fans who don't like, who are very vocal.
Yeah, they sure do complain a lot.
Right.
I think with their exact words.
Yeah, and like one of the fans called it craptastic, and so Dean's a little hurt that that people think their lives are craptastic.
Yes.
Craptastic. But then Sam is like, no, keep reading. It gets worse than just opinions. And he's like, there's Sam girls and there's Dean girls, and then there's Sam/Dean fans.
Slash fans, which are Sam/Dean, which I think in this world they call Winchest. No, Wincest.
Wincest, yes.
Which is so wrong.
It is. And I could have done without that particular glance. But I was like, yeesh.
Yep. He also finds a list of books that are out and like published and into the world. They're all titles from the actual show, from the season. Not all of them. Books 1 through 16 are season 1 titles. Books 17 through 19 are season 2, and books 20 through 24 are season 3.
Oh, good job.
I started writing the ones that were missing, and I was like, no, this is taking way too long.
Yeah, I see, but you still went a step further. I wrote mishmash. That's what I wrote down. I said it's not all of them. It's a mishmash of episodes.
They do go in order, so it's not like, season 3-7 comes before 3-4.
Because it ends with Dean going to hell.
Yeah.
Which was the end of the previous season.
3. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and Dean's like, oh, big fan of that episode.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, we have to go find the author. We have to find who's writing these books. And of course, my question is again, why? Why are they on this mission?
I think they got side quested. They were there on a quest, into the comic book store, and then they all of a sudden were like, "Fuck the comic book store! Who is this guy? How does he know so much about us? What's going on? We gotta forget it. There's a ghost in there. He'll just have to stay there for a while.
Yeah, let him stay in the walls. Let the lights flicker. It's fine." So they don't find the author because it's a pen name, and so they can't track down this guy because they can't find his address or anything like that. But they do find his publisher. Enter what's her butt with the name I can't pronounce. Previously Giles.
Her name in this is Sarah Siege, which is a mishmash of Sarah Gamble and Julie Siege, who are like writers/producers on the show.
They tried really hard on this episode, didn't they? So Sam and Dean find the publisher. Their aliases this time is that they're journalists writing a story about the supernatural books.
Yeah.
The underserved community.
Yeah. She's very excited about this because she's a huge fan of the books, and especially the boys, especially when they cry, because they are just so sensitive.
Favorite fan moments. So she described some of her favorite moments from their lives, except she made one mistake, because she brings up, she's like, it was so sad when, Sam had to kill Madison after just having lost Jess, and finally, and she goes like this when Sam had to kill Madison. And
like
she made a
stab.
Yep, she made a stabby stab motion. And it's like, oh, Chuck got it wrong. Or the actress did. And or maybe it was just an unconscious, like maybe she was literally going, oh, it was so sad. But she did this, she made the gesture just as she was saying Sam killed Madison. And just after he lost Jess, and and of course the boys are like reliving every moment that she's like, these were my favorite moments, and each one of them is like this like painful moment for them. And then she goes on to say, well, it was nice reading about real men, and Sam and Dean are like, what do you
they're
real men?
They're a little chuffed. They're like, excuse me? And then somewhere in this conversation it turns, because they're just so incredulous at all of this. They're like, oh my God, I can't.
Yeah.
She's like, wait a minute, I don't think you're real fans, prove it. So she has them like rattle off all of these
quiz. She has like a quiz of supernatural.
Yes, that's what it is. That she gives them like trivia questions.
Yeah, like what's the car? What's the car make and model? So Dean's got that one. What are these dates? Oh, that's Sam's birthday, and then Dean's like, well, my birthday is the January 24th, which no one ever talks about on the show. And then
this is where we learn their birthdays. Actually, is in this episode.
Is this episode? And then Sam's LSAT scores, and even Sam is like,
yeah, he's like, did
174? Which I looked up, did a little rabbit hole. The LSATs, that score is tremendous.
Oh, smarty pants Sam.
Yep. 150 is like the minimum of a decent law school. 160 is a top ranking law school, and 170 above is like top 10.
Dang.
Yep.
Super smarty pants, Sam.
Super smarty pants. And then, of course, what are Dean's favorite song? What is Dean's favorite song? And he gets her. He's like, there's two. It's a tie. But they're both Led Zeppelin. Yeah. So what was it? Ramblin' On and Travel Roadside Blues or something. Riverside Blues. I can't read my handwriting. Which I didn't know. So I think this was stuff that we found out in this episode. Yeah. So like you said. But cool. So they passed the test. Hooray. She's convinced.
Well, yeah, they passed the test after they swoop down, show their little chest tattoos there. Like that's kind of like, oh, okay, I guess you are. And then
we are real fans. And then okay.
Yeah, like beep beep boop. And then she's like, oh, I have one too. Beep boop. And it's on her
hoopy doop
on her booty,
her back boopy, which I think is funny is that she's like, oh my God, I have one too. So, and she like drops her pants, and now they're like all in the club together, which I think is hysterical because she bends over the desk, starts writing down the like author's address and stuff, but she didn't pick up her pants. So her pants are still on the ground while they don't show that, but they also don't show her picking up her pants, which I thought was kind of funny.
I don't think she dropped complete trow. I think she just scrooched him down.
Okay.
A little bit.
Quite possible that's what she did.
Just a little like
a little peeky poo.
Yeah. A little peeky poo. So she gives Carver Edlund's real name, which is Chuck Shirley, the genius, and I like this cut to the slob in a robe,
Yeah.
And Chuck Shirley is narrating aloud his next story. And what he's narrating are the actions of the boys as they're walking up, trepidatiously to the house.
terrible writing.
Yes,
It's absolutely terrible
giving
writing.
each other soulful looks, and with determination, Dean
Rings the
presses
doorbell
with determination.
And even Chuck is like, this is really bad.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's still writing it. And it's like he's reading the stage directions for them. And I had to ask myself, like, do they have to have those types of stage directions? Because they were wrong. It's like they weren't, soulfully looking at each other. They didn't determinedly ring the doorbell. I was like, wow, those are really bad stage directions. So they ring the doorbell. Mm-hmm. And Chuck opens the door, and he is El Slabo in his dirty robe, and obviously somebody who doesn't leave the house much.
Yeah.
And just, writes terribly. And he's like, hi, can I help you? And they say, we're Sam and Dean from your books, Supernatural.
Yes. So Chuck thinks that they're LARPing also, and he's like, oh, very funny, or maybe I'll get some posters for you or something. But the boys are just not having it. They just barge right in. Yep. And Chuck is like, this is a misery thing, isn't it? It's totally a misery thing.
And he's like, it's not misery. We're not fans.
Yeah, we just are. We are them. Chuck does not believe them.
Still doesn't believe them.
So they take him to their trunk and they show him their arsenal. And he's like, oh, are these real?
Okay. Real guns?
Great. I'm just going to back away slowly. Yeah.
So he had a moment where he actually tells them to like get a life. He's like, look, I appreciate the fan. I appreciate the, the fandom, but get a life. This coming from the heart, this will do you out. Get a life, which was taken exactly from a Saturday Night Live episode where William Shatner was, he was himself in this episode, and he was talking to fans, and all the fans kept asking him was like minute details from episodes. Like in episode 26, what was the safe code when you had to open up the lock on the, and finally he's like, get a life, you guys, move out of your mother's basement, get a life. And they were all so crushed that he's like, all right, it's just kidding. I was reenacting a scene from, and it fixed everything and made everything better.
Yeah.
But the get a life was directly a William Shatner moment.
That's funny. But yes, even after showing him their trunk of weapons, and asking about angels and Lilith, which were stories that he wrote down, but they never actually got published.
Right.
He still is like, no, okay, this is a prank, right? This is, Bob set you up to this, or somebody. And it's not until they reveal their last name does he pause and stop. Yeah. Because he's never told anybody that or written it down anywhere. It's only been in his head that their last names are Winchester.
And Dean is like, it sinks in. It now sinks in for Chuck. Yeah. That this is real. How could it be real? And Sam and Dean are like, doesn't matter right now. What do you know?
Yeah.
What do you know about Lilith? What do you know about angels? What do you know about what is happening now? Since you know everything that's happened before, what's happening now? And Chuck is like, it's like he's still stuck on the how do I know these things? I get it. I must be a god.
Yeah.
That's his answer. I must be a god. And Dean's like,
the only
no.
answer, a cruel, capricious god.
Yes, because who else would have made you live through bugs?
Yes.
And Ghost Ship, you live through Ghost Ship. They're like, yes. Again, it's fine. We lived through it. Can we get on to the Lilith? And I love that Chuck is still stuck on bad writing. He's like, I'm so sorry.
P.S. He made a mistake because Red Sky at Morning was not on the book list that was published.
Dun, dun, dun.
But I mean, maybe he wrote it. It just never got out into the ether. But
yeah, there's a poster in his house of a ghost ship, and it's a reddish poster. So I wonder, clearly it was meant to be a reference, but maybe they just didn't circle back to it.
Yeah. Or it could have been for something else. Maybe, I'm assuming not all of the posters in his house are supernatural related. They might just be other
cheesy artwork that he wrote.
Yeah.
But anyway, Sam and Dean, you're not a god, you're just a psychic. That's what we're thinking here.
Yeah.
And somehow you're just super focused, like laser focused on our lives.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's what you're having visions of is our lives because you're a psychic. Chuck is like, yeah, but I wrote myself. Is that here?
Yeah, he basically, like, they ask him, like, what's your next book about? And then that's when Chuck is like, oh shit, you know what? It's like Vonnegut.
Yeah, it's now.
Yeah, it's this. I wrote myself being confronted by my characters in my house. Oh boy. Because I liked this little this nugget here where he's like, it's like Vonnegut. And then Dean is the one who's like, well, like which kind of Vonnegut?
Yeah. Cats in the Cradle or Slaughterhouse 5?
So much that Sam was like, what?
How do you know what? See, and I had to look that up too, because I mean I'm familiar with the names, but it doesn't mean anything to me because it wasn't my generation, my genre. And I'm glad because it seems really surreal. The writing just seems really
he's weird. But it kind of reminded me of that one episode of Friends where Joey knows the answer to something, or maybe he corrects somebody's grammar or something. Right. And everybody like, just like turns to look at him. He's like, yeah, that's right.
I read. Joey knows. Yes. Oh, gosh. So they leave Chuck to, I guess, ruminate over all of this. So the next time we see Sam and Dean, they're in a laundromat doing laundry.
It's a very cute little scene.
And reading the pages, like it's not a book yet, but it's the next pages that Chuck had written.
Yes. I believe Dean's quote is, I'm sitting in a laundromat reading about myself, sitting in a laundromat reading about myself.
That's yeah. And Sam is just like, it doesn't matter. Stop reading it. We have to figure out what's going on. And Dean's still reading. He's like, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't see your face, but your shoulders are definitely pensive and brooding.
Yes.
You just thought I was a dick.
And that's when Sam was like, oh, wow.
It's pretty good. Yeah. So I also love that Dean called it, Sam throws his giant clothes into the dryer or something like that. Which again makes me wonder if that was like a Jensen thing or
right. Okay, so now we cut back to Chuck, who is having a dream about Sam and a beautiful blonde woman who we can only assume is Lilith by her white demon eyes.
White eyes, yep. She's like patting the bed. She's like sitting on a bed and patting it seductively, and Sam is like, ooh.
Yeah, she's like, come hither, and then hither he comes.
Come here to me. Sexy time, and then Chuck wakes up like, so that can't be good.
Right. So he gathers the boys, reads a new chapter where Lilith is going to pat the bed seductively, and Sam, unable to resist, lays down, and they succumb to fiery demonic passion. Where Sam is like, whoa. I will not be doing any fiery demonic passion.
Right. But he's still kind of laughing it off though. He's like, come on, this is ridiculous. Yeah. Dean is like, no.
Yeah.
There's something's happening here. He's gotten everything right so far. Why would you be laughing this off?
Right.
And Sam's like, because me and Lilith, come on. And Dean has to give Sam that look of, yeah, you have the potential to do this.
Right. So he asks about Chuck's process, which is just, I get a lot of headaches. Aspirin doesn't work, so I drink a lot. And then I have these dreams. And then I write them down. So just a little behind the scenes note here. They chose to turn Lilith into a woman this time because they decided that killing a little girl on screen is where Kripke couldn't do that. And I was like, wow, we finally found the line for Eric Kripke.
But did we? Because he's done some terrible things to children.
He has. I think it was more so Sam killing the little girl.
Okay.
It's like, we can't have one of like my boys like
Okay.
murdering a little
Murder a
girl.
little girl. Okay.
So they said, let's just grow her up. She can still eat the babies.
But
But
Sam
we'll,
can't
yeah, but we'll play
kill a
more into
baby.
the seductive side of Lilith's mythology.
Okay. I made a note to myself because she's listed as a comely dental hygienist because they're like,
Mhm.
so, because that was one of Dean's issues is that she's a child. You're not going to be having sex with a child, right?
Yes.
Or was it Sam said that?
Somebody.
And somebody said it. And Chuck was like, yeah, but she's an adult now and she's this, comely dental hygienist. And I wrote down, I was like, was that in the description for the casting agents to like read out to their clients?
Yeah.
They're looking to cast a comely dental hygienist.
Yes.
Like how do you respond to that casting call?
Right. So now the boys, they try to head out of town with Chuck's pages in hand. And they read his pages, and part of it is Dean gets in an accident with a minivan, sees stars while scratching at a pink flower band-aid on his face, and then something else about the car's back windshield covered in a tarp that's flapping in the wind. Neither of those things seem likely at the moment, so they're like,
Right.
this is crazy. Let's just,
Right. But we should leave town anyway.
Yes.
Let's to keep it from happening, let's just leave town. So therefore it won't happen. And they're prevented from leaving town by a bridge being out. And it's the only bridge out of this town. There's only one road in and one road out of this town. So they're like, crap. So they see that's, check one is happening, that they're stuck in town. So Dean finds what is it? Does this when he finds the shitty motel?
No, they're at the diner next.
Oh, they go to the diner to figure out what to do now since they're trapped in town.
Yes.
And did you know the name of this town?
Kripke's Hollow. Oh, the town or the diner?
The town is Kripke's Hollow. Yeah.
Oh,
and the diner.
I see.
Yeah. And the diner
I thought it was just the diner that was Kripke's Hollow Diner.
They are in Kripke's Hollow. Yep. So everybody's getting their name called out in this episode. I tried to zoom in on what the image was on the diner's like little place card because it looked like chocolate balls to me, and I was like, "That."
Yes, they are Buckeyes, which is a candy treat, and they are delicious. But they're like a peanut butter ball that's only slightly dipped in chocolate. So only so there's like a small circle
like an
peanut
eyeball.
butter, but it looks like a Buckeye, which is a tree thing. It's like a tree nut thing, but it's an Ohio thing. I think
which is why the Ohio State Buckeyes.
There's a sports team somewhere. Yeah, that's
a sports ball team.
Yes, sports ball team. That is the Buckeyes. He is from Ohio, so this is all.
Okay. I'm glad you explained to me what a Buckeye is because I was like, it's just chocolate balls, and that was what was on.
They're peanut butter chocolate balls. They're delicious. I'll make you sometime.
How would you? I would like that. Yes, Kripke's Hollow chocolate Buckeye balls. So they need to try to do. They've decided they need to try to do the opposite of whatever is written down.
Yeah.
Which is very hard for them to do because they start arguing about it, and then they have to stop themselves from arguing because that's what they would normally do.
Yes, and that's what's in the pages is that they get in a fight about something, and instead of fighting, they pause, and it turns into I statements like I feel frustrated
when you change your mind like that.
Yes.
Well, yeah. Oh God, that was funny. And so
and instead of a cheeseburger, Dean decides to order the veggie tofu burger.
But Sam got a freaking Cobb salad. I'm like, that's not different. But okay, but maybe it didn't
because
say
Sam
he ordered.
Sam isn't on board with this yet. He's just like, I don't understand why we would do the opposite. I want to fight. And Dean's like, let's not fight. We are not, this fight is too big for us. Still, we're not ready for this fight. And Sam is like, we're
fine. You don't order a burger then.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so Dean's all proud of himself for ordering the tofu burger. And then it comes to him, the waitress gives him the burger and he's like, oh my God, this is delicious. Tofu is amazing. And then she comes back. She's like, oops. I gave you the bacon cheeseburger by mistake. So which I thought was fantastic. So again, they're being steered back to the writing.
Yeah. And even Sam is kind of like, see, your plan isn't really working. I don't have faith in this plan.
Yep.
The next part of the plan is going to a motel, the Toreador Motel, or a hooker inn, as one of them said, because they were supposed to stay at a red motel. So now they're going to a pay by the hour.
Pay by the hour. On a personal note, one of the operas I just finished was The Tragedy of Carmen. Escamillo is the Toreador who sings the Toreador song. Toreador prongare, Toreador. So I was rather tickled by the scenes in the Toreador motel, especially given the artwork inside the motel, which was like bulls and matadors.
Yeah, some very masculine imagery there. So inside the room, Dean preps the place with a bunch of hex bags and basically locks Sam in to watch Casa Erotica. Even steals his laptop so he doesn't do research.
No research. He's like, don't do research.
Not
watch
allowed.
Porn.
Yep.
And then giggles at himself for that particular statement. And off he goes.
Yes, to park the car, because in the pages it says that he just drives around all day.
Why did he get in the car in the first place? Why didn't he just leave it parked at the motel?
Sometimes
you just got to move the car.
Dean is not too smart. No, that's what I was going to say. It was like, if it says that he's driving around in the Impala all day, I would just not get in the Impala at all. I would.
Correct. But we're not
call a cab or something, or walk around, take a bus.
Because my sister asked the same thing, and I was like, well, I think what he was doing was he was moving the car so that it would be far enough away that he wouldn't feel like he could just go jump in the car and go if he wanted to. But that negated the getting in the car to go move the car.
Totally failed logic. For many reasons, especially because when he parks the car, immediately some kids try to carjack it. Like he turns around for 3 seconds, and then when he turns back around,
there's crowbars, and I mean they are hell bent. And so is Dean. He's like, hey, and then steps in front of a moving car, which happens to be
a minivan,
and gets knocked out.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Sam has called Chuck over to the motel to talk to him, mainly because he wants to know how much Chuck knows about his process.
Yes. And what have you seen of me when I'm not with Dean? Chuck knows exactly what he's asking. Chuck's like, oh, you mean the demon blood?
Yeah.
And then Sam's like, have you written about it? Are you going to write about it? And Chuck says, I'm not going to, because I thought it made you less sympathetic.
Yeah.
As a character. And Sam's like, what? He's like, Chuck's like, well, come on, drinking demon blood? Yeah, that's wrong. You know that's wrong. And I was like, oh, ding, 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 ding.
Yes. But then this becomes a nice scene where we finally feel, or we hear Sam's thoughts on this whole thing.
Yeah. His plight, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Because as of now, really the only thing he said about it was that first scene when he decides to with Ruby. We don't know it yet. He's like, I'm finally ready to take the next step. And then it's not until several episodes later that we see what it actually is.
Right. We just thought it was studying.
Right. Or like, a Mr. Miyagi kind of situation.
Exactly. Wax on, wax off, but not.
Nope. And he's like, I'm scared because I know what it can do. I can feel it inside of me, and I wish that I could stop.
Mm-hmm. And Chuck seems pretty sympathetic towards Sam. I mean, given that he just said that it would make you unsympathetic a character, he actually is just like, I know how you must feel that like the weight of everything is on your shoulders. Like you're carrying all the weight. And Sam's like, am I carrying all the weight? And Chuck says like, well, it kind of seems like the writing's taking us that way.
Right.
And I'm like, yikes.
Yeah.
So maybe Sam is the answer to the apocalypse.
Right. And he's kind of taking it on himself because he feels like Dean, what does he say, is different after he got out of hell. And he does feel like he's taking responsibility for it. So this little exchange with him, you know, Sam is finally getting vulnerable about how he feels about the whole thing and how deep he is in it, whether he realizes it or not.
Right.
He kind of realizes it, but not so much, because Chuck tries to say, well, maybe it just makes you feel stronger or like you're in control, not unlike what drugs do to people. And
Right.
Sam is adamantly like, nope, that's not it.
That's not it.
He's in denial phase right now still.
Yep. I have to do it because Dean can't.
Yeah.
And
because Dean's always looking out for me, and now it's my turn to look out for him.
Yeah. So cut to Dean, obviously not being strong enough because he's been hit by a car. Wakes up, is seeing stars, and he's got this crazy minivan lady leaning over him and apologizing for her daughter, who has put Band-Aids all over his face because she's in a doctor phase. I'm like, you hit a man with your car.
He's like, yeah, you're apologizing for the wrong thing. Like, you don't seem very concerned that you hit a human being with your car.
Who then hit the concrete, like who then hit the street, you know?
And was out for who knows how long, but
because your kid had enough time to put 3 Band-Aids on his face, you know?
And she's like, oh, sorry.
Yeah. And the kid is, you know, stupidly cute, like, you're our mother now. It's like, all right, good. Let's move on from this scene. You know, Dean gets himself out of the street and he looks over and he sees the Impala that is smashed. The back window is smashed out. And he's like, son of a bitch. And he sees that he's got pink Band-Aids on his face. And the next thing you see is him driving the Impala with a tarp flapping on the back. Yep. And I was like, Dean, you played right into it. You could have driven away without the tarp. But it's like, what were you thinking when you were putting the tarp on the car? You know, obviously I know your window's busted out, but were you thinking, God damn it, you know, I have to do this because it's written, you know? But so anyway.
Yeah. So he drives off to poor Chuck's house, lots of booze. And he is just out of his mind about how all of that he writes comes true. I like Jensen's delivery here. It's just like, yeah, I just got hit by a minivan, Chuck. And all you can say is, everything you write about us comes true, every single little detail. And that's all you can say.
All you say is,
he is at his breaking point now. He goes after Chuck, lunges at Chuck, but like, tell me what you know.
Yeah.
How are you doing this?
Got him slammed up against the wall. And suddenly Cass appears and is like, Dean, stop. Don't hurt this man.
Yep. He's a prophet of the Lord.
What?
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. And I had to look that up, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I was like, really, prophet? What are we talking about here with the property prophets? Because, Cass is like, no, it's I wrote down. I said, a prophet. The primary role was to make known the word of God, and which often involved calling people back to the obedience of God. They denounced injustice and idolatry and empty rituals, and were often like physically attacked for it because they were calling people out for their, you know, it's like, no, this is the word of God. These are the stories I've been told to tell. And so like, a couple of prophets were Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, just to name a few, depending on which book you're reading. There's a lot.
I'm assuming Luke was one as well.
Luke is not.
Luke
was not. And I was like, because Cass mentions Luke.
Yeah.
Because Dean can't believe that this guy, Chuck, I mean, in his disheveled robe and clothes, is a prophet of the Lord. And Cass kind of offhandedly says, yeah, well, you should have seen Luke, meaning the life of the prophet is very difficult.
Yeah.
But Luke was actually, he was more of a, not a commentator, but he wrote down the trials of Christ. So he was there writing it down in actual time.
I see.
So he was the scribe. I know scribes were used later, but anyway. But yeah, so I thought that was interesting that he said Luke was I think he was referring to Luke as a prophet, but Luke was not a prophet. So it turns out Cass is a big fan of the supernatural books. which I thought was kind of funny. And he says, one day these books will be known as the Winchester Gospel. And both Chuck and Dean at the same time say, "You've got to be kidding me." These books. And a part of me went, does Cass know the future? Someday these books will be known as the Winchester Gospel. I mean, I know that was very tongue in cheek,
Yeah.
nod wink to the fan base. But, I was just like, does that mean that Cass knows the future?
That's a hard question to answer because of all of the free will / destiny / path of God things that are going to come up.
Yep.
So if there's a prophet, that means that there is a prophecy, which means that should be taken as the word.
Right. But until it's written,
right,
nobody knows.
Right. So maybe this is just anything that a prophet writes down becomes a gospel because that's part of their job. So he's just saying like, oh, this becomes the gospel of Mark. Was he one?
Right.
Exactly. Whoever was a prophet is now like, this is the gospel of whatever.
Chuck.
The book of Mark, the book of Chuck.
Right.
It's way more philosophical than I wanted to get.
No, that's okay. But I just thought it was an interesting, because at first I was like, oh, that's and then I just read my notes in more detail that Luke was a witness to Jesus and his miracles, and he wrote them down as they happened. So that's what that was. So getting back to, how do we stop Sam Lilith? That's what Dean wants to know. How do we stop the Sam Lilith thing?
Yeah,
from happening?
And we can't. Because, like I just said, but in way more words, what the prophet has written can't be unwritten, and it shall come to pass. The end. End of story. Like,
that's
put
it.
a pin in it.
So back at the motel.
Yes.
Dean sees that the motel's sign has shorted out, and it no longer says Toreador. All the letters that are left says red.
Yes.
So he's like, damn it.
Yep. It was inevitable.
Like, yep. So I'm just going to get Sam and go.
Yep.
So he comes in. He's like, let's go get your stuff. We're going to go. Hey, wait, where are all the hex bags? What are you doing? And Sam is saying, I'm going to stay. Yeah.
I burned them because we're never going to get a chance. We've been chasing Lilith this whole time, and now we know that she's coming.
This is our one chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, I know what you're afraid of. You're afraid I'm going to go dark side. And Dean's like, yes, that is exactly what I'm afraid of. And Sam tries to convince Dean that it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. And Dean is not really into it because he knows a lot of things. He knows that he's super strong now, that he's been using his quote unquote psychic crap, that he was the one who defeated Alistair in basically no problem at all.
Yeah, tore him apart. Yeah.
But doesn't know how he's getting that strong. Neither him nor Cass know. Or at least Cass is not telling him.
Right. Because Cass did tell Dean about Alistair, because we all know that Dean was passed out when that happened, and it was Cass who told him that Sam killed Alistair.
Right.
But didn't know how he did it.
I think that Cass does know, because he knew that he was meeting up with Ruby and doing the other kind of training, because he was the one who told Dean, right? He was like, go to this address and you're going to find your brother doing something unsavory.
Right. Yeah.
So I think he knows, and is just not, he's like, it's not my place. Not my place now to say, or maybe it's part of the prophecy. Who knows?
Who knows?
But Sam doesn't reveal it in this moment, so Dean still doesn't know. He just starts to leave and then changes his mind at the last minute.
Yep. So he goes out to the soda machine instead, and we find that Dean really has no answers left. He has nowhere else to turn, so he actually starts to pray.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't believe himself that he's praying, but he's like, I have nowhere else to turn, and so I'm praying. Help me, please. And Cass appears.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Cass has to rub it in his face, like, "Hey, that's a sign of faith. That's a good step forward.
Yeah, good job.
Good job with the praying." Um, but Dean is like, "You have to help me. You know, I can't. I don't know what to do. There has to be a way to stop this from happening." And Cass says, "I cannot. I am not allowed to interfere."
Yeah.
And Dean is like, "I've done so much for you without asking for anything in return. I've stepped up, I've gotten knocked down. You have to help me. You're not going to help me. Screw you, screw your quest, screw your God, screw all of this." And
Yeah.
starts to walk away.
Yeah, he's like, when the time comes and you need me, like really need me, don't even bother.
Yeah, I will not be there for you.
So this was a nice, glorious speech that he did, but it wasn't quite accurate. Because, yeah, he does the things, but it's not without a fight. Like every single time that they ask him to do something, he always throws a fit, or he does it without even knowing that they've asked him to do it. So he's not exactly doing it. It's like, "Oh, I've never asked for anything in return. I've always done it." It's like, well, not always begrudgingly. Always begrudgingly, if not.
But also tricked into it as well.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, the only way to get him to do it is to trick him.
However,
yes,
Cass doesn't let him leave. He says, "Dean, I need you to understand why I can't do it. It's because the prophet is protected by a very, very, very powerful archangel, excuse me. And if anything threatens the prophet, anything at all, then the archangel will be forced to destroy that anything that might be threatening him." Wink, wink, nudge,
wink,
nudge.
wink. And Dean is like, "So what you're saying is, if we put a demon in the room with the prophet, the archangel will appear and destroy the demon." And Cass is like, "That seems to be what would happen." Yes, like the mightiest wrath of heaven would rain down upon that demon. But just so you know, that's why I can't help you.
Yes.
Slide, side eye up to heaven.
Oh my God.
And then there's the, well, thanks, Cass. Then they have their moment of.
Yeah. So Dean heads to Chuck to enlist him to fight, and despite his grand speech to try and rouse him up to the plate, it doesn't work. Chuck is like,
God, that was funny.
It was so funny.
That was such a great scene, because it was like rising, building heroic music while Dean is saying, "You're gonna step up. Well, I need you to do this for me, Chuck. Come on, you can do it." And you see Chuck kind of stand up a little bit taller, a little bit braver, and then he turns and goes, "No fucking way!"
Yeah.
The music stops, goes to silent.
Amazing.
Amazing. God.
So then Dean is like, "Fine, if you won't come, then I'll either shoot you or I'll shoot you."
Yeah, there's no or. Yeah. He's like, all right, so how about this? I have a gun, and I'm just gonna shoot you ahead. And then Chuck was like, "Yeah, but I thought you said I have an archangel." And Dean's like, "Well, let's see who's faster on the draw then."
Yeah.
And the look on his face said he didn't care one way or the other. If he killed Chuck, or if he was killed by an archangel, he didn't care.
Yep.
So
cut to Sam awaiting and finding a beautiful grown-up Lilith in his motel room.
Which I kind of hated this reveal, because there's like a knock on the door and he opens it, there's nobody there, and then he turns around, she's already in the room, and she's like, "We've been waiting for this," it's like dun dun dun, and I was like, "What do we mean dun dun dun? We knew she was coming." The only reveal is that she's the blonde woman that we already saw in Chuck's dreams.
Yeah.
So I hated that moment. So big surprise.
She tries to get control of the knife. She notices the sneaky devil's trap under the rug before she even crosses it, and simply just burns a line through it with her fingertips. It's nothing at all. And
then they try to mind blast each other, or like Sam was like, "All right, well, I can't get you with the knife. I'm gonna try this." And all it does is like blow her hair back dramatically. And then, she admits that she is powerless against Sam, and she doesn't know why.
So they're kind of at a standstill here.
Yeah. And so Lilith is like, well, I know how to end all this. And you just have to make a deal with me.
Yep.
It's like she said, I will stop breaking the seals. I will stop this whole Lucifer thing.
Oh, but all that he needs to do is like sacrifice himself and his brother. So that's the trade. Is like she will stop chasing all of the seals because she has foreseen her death before the apocalypse starts. Like all the fun stuff is going to start, but she's going to be dead. So she doesn't want to be dead. So she's like, I'll stop.
I'll stop the whole
for you and your brother's head on a plate or something. She calls it the Winchester way of sacrificing yourself, which I quite enjoyed.
And but if you agree, it takes more than just a kiss to seal a deal with me. And that's where the whole like rubbing the bed, pat comes into play. And so Sam's like, well, all right. And then steps in to do the sexy time and instead reaches for the devil's knife or Satan's blade or whatever it is.
The demon blade.
Wow, it's been a while since I've looked at that. The devil's knife. The demon blade, which Lilith handily, wrestles away from him.
It's like she pretty much saw that coming a mile away. That was no fight whatsoever.
Yeah.
So Dean honestly was right after all. It's like no, you guys, we aren't ready for this fight for this demon.
Right.
But in any case, Chuck the Prophet has entered the room.
With his trusty Dean in tow.
Yes.
I am the Prophet Chuck. That was very much of I carried a watermelon moment from Dirty Dancing. But. And Lilith is like, are you joking? Like, this is what interrupts her moment is, Chuck.
Yeah.
And suddenly the room starts shaking, the wind starts blowing. And
there's a bright light like coming from, is it the ceiling? Anyway, there's like a bright light coming from somewhere. Dean's
somewhere.
Like, ha ha ha. There's an archangel on his way.
Yep. And Lilith is like, really? And then she waits a little bit longer, and then I think she realizes that yes, indeed, there is an archangel coming.
Yeah, like fine, I'm out.
Yep, and smokes out, and the beautiful, comely dental hygienist collapses on the floor, and the archangel does not appear now that the demon is gone.
Yes, the danger's gone, so the archangel is gone. Were there? I don't know if you've looked at any bloopers of this episode yet, but were there a lot of bloopers in this scene?
Mm-mm.
Because they had a really hard time filming this. Like I read, they were like, we just could not stop cracking up. It must have just been the whole like putting your hand
hokey.
Up with it was kind of hokey.
Yeah. I didn't see a lot. There's a lot for this season, but I didn't see a lot for this episode.
All right.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Lilith is gone. Bummer.
Lilith is gone. And so now we see Sam and Dean driving away in the Impala.
Yep, little driving talk.
Mm-hmm. Flappy, flap. And so Sam's answer to basically all of this is Lilith is scared. Lilith is running from what? You know? And he knows that she's not going to survive the apocalypse. But Sam's answer to that is because I won't let her.
Yeah.
He's like, I will make sure of that.
Yeah.
And Dean asks, like, so did you at any point, think about going through with the deal? And Sam's like, come on, you've been pushing me away from Lilith this whole time. And now you're wanting me to say that I did think about taking her deal. And he says, I did, I think, thought about it, but she would have weaseled out of it. And then we would have both been dead. And then, the apocalypse would still happen. And so what's the point?
Right.
But, so that's the only answer they have, though, is that Lilith is scared. Lilith knows she dies before the apocalypse starts. So,
and Dean did seem a little surprised that she wanted to make that deal.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, interesting. Did not think that it would have gone that way. That meetup would not have been discussing like her quitting.
Right. So off they drive, and that's not the end of the episode.
No, because now we're back at Chuck's house, who has a massive dream about something that
Something that we don't
see.
see. All his other flashes we saw. This one we don't.
Right.
And he wakes up suddenly and painfully
Yes.
to Zachariah
Yes.
in his house.
Yes.
Did you see it? And Chuck doesn't say yes, but he's like, is that really what happens? You know, Zachariah's like, well, I don't know. Did you see it? And Chuck can't take it. He's like, no, I can't put Sam and Dean through this. I'm not going to write it. I'm not going to write it. And Zachariah's like, where are you going? And he's like, I'm going to go kill myself.
First he tries, he's like, I got to warn Sam and Dean.
Oh, okay.
Zachariah says, absolutely, you will not tell them about their destiny. And then he's off to go kill himself. And Zachariah says, no, suicide is futile too, because we'll just bring you back.
We'll just bring you back. So you might as well just write it.
Yep.
You know, because Chuck's like, what do I do? And Zachariah says, write it down.
Yep.
Just keep writing. And so we're seeing an even more evil side of Zachariah.
Yeah.
You know, conniving from the first time we meet him to now being like downright, you know, deceitful. I mean, more deceitful, cryptic and evil.
Cryptic, yeah. He's being like, I don't know. He's definitely not on team free will, you know?
No. But that leaves us with what the hell is in store.
Yeah.
You know, if Chuck is already sympathetic to Sam and Dean and what he saw was so painful, like what is happening? What's going to happen?
Right.
That he was willing to kill himself so as not to put Sam and Dean through it.
Right. Or have to see any more of these visions, or maybe even to live through the, like, whatever happens, you know, what the end result is. Like, well, I don't want to live in that world.
Right. I wrote down the notes to myself. I wrote down lots of wrath, heaven's anger, and fear. There's like this episode with the messages were all about the wrath of heaven and the fear and anger. You know, so
anger, like, of if you don't do what I want you to do.
Yeah, like heavenly anger. Like somebody, it was not all about the apocalypse. It was more about the fear of what's going to rain down on you from heaven.
Right. Okay, so a few little fun facts about this episode. The story for this was inspired by an assignment that Kripke gave his writers that I feel like he gives them a lot now that I read it out loud. The assignment was, think of a movie you like and we'll do a supernatural twist on it.
Oh.
So the movie this was based on, do you want to give a guess?
No.
Okay. It's okay. No. I would not have guessed it right either. Stranger Than Fiction.
Nope, I never would have gotten there.
And the supernatural twist that they did, Sarah Gamble and Julie Siege said, oh, we'll make him a prophet. We'll make the author a prophet, which tucks in nicely with this season's mythology and for the rest of the show, I guess. So all the writers, of course, you know, they put in little bits of themselves into Chuck, but mostly it's based kind of visualized on Kripke. Like that's who they pictured when they were writing him. That also kind of explains why all of the name drops of the other characters are little last names of other writers and stuff like that. This was Kripke's favorite episode of season 4, and it won Best Episode Television category in the 2009 Portal Awards at the Sci-Fi Entertainment News website Airlock Alpha, which I've never heard of before, but it won an award.
I'll take it. I got a glimpse of the next episode and I forgot about the monster in it. I recognized the
Oh,
characters, but I
right.
forgot about the monster story.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh no, what? What? How does this?
That one I remember. This one I did remember, but I forgot the Lilith twist.
Because she's really small in this episode.
Yeah, she was. I kind of forgot that she was in it at all.
Yeah.
And I also forgot that she foresaw her future. You know, but that little bit of her saying like, "Oh, okay, I'll stop because I don't want to die." I forgot that completely. But I do remember this episode otherwise very well because it is one of my favorites.
I loved it more this time because the book covers, the cover art, the whole idea of the stories and of the gospel of the Winchesters means so much more to me now. And just that the book art was phenomenal because I read romance books. I was 100%. I read those bodice rippers. I never bought oh my God, I did have a Fabio cover. Now I didn't buy it because of Fabio. I always thought that the Fabio covers were just I was like, what man is this? And then when I found out he was a real model, a real man and a model, I was like, what? This is a thing?
Yeah.
It's not just some artist rendition of what, a man thinks a woman wants in a man. Oh my God. So yes, I did read romance books. I mean, voraciously. But so that's why these covers tickled me for one thing. But also just because it's trying to picture Dean like looking at the cover of the books, like himself on the cover of these books. God, I just loved it. I loved it. It just means so much more to me than had I had just been watching this in order for the first time. It wouldn't have. I would have been like right by. I wouldn't have noticed it.
Yeah, the art department did a really good job with those covers.
I bet they had a blast.
Yeah.
I guess now the big question is that Bobby or is that the redneck from the Benders?
Yeah, I don't know. But just to reiterate, I did love this episode. One of my favorites.
I enjoyed
pretty much everything about it.
I enjoyed it immensely.
Really no notes. So that was the monster at the end of this book. Next.
Who is the monster?
Well, it could be a number of things because we're not at the end of the book yet. So
I'm going to say...
leave that there. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Chuck thinks it's himself based on how it ends for Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
And as a writer, not wanting them to read the end of the book, I'm going to say Chuck thinks that it's him.
It's hard for me to answer this knowing what is coming.
If you stop at the end of this episode and you don't go any further, if you just go this book, this episode, I would say because Chuck is now the bearer of the bad news. We don't know what that bad news is.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want anyone to get to the end of the book. He doesn't want Sam and Dean to get to the end of the book because he knows there's a monster at the end of the book.
Right.
And because he's the writer, that's just my 2 cents. For this book, for this episode, for this moment in time.
It's really hard for me to separate this episode because it could be, it could be Sam. Sam could be the monster. Like, what road is he going to go down? Mm-hmm. It could be the monster himself. It could be Lucifer. Literally, like,
yeah.
What is the monster that they're going to face at the end of the book? I don't know.
Right.
All these philosophical questions that have come out of this silly little episode.
Which I loved. I really did.
So next week we will be talking about Jump the Shark.
I do know what this is in reference to. Yes, I do know what this is. I love
this title in reference to this episode. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your patience as we for letting us put up all of these replays while we deal with, I don't know,
what we thought was going to be an easy summer.
Me being a dysfunctional adult.
Oh God, we tried. We had every intention. I just want to put that out there. Every week we had every intention of getting an episode out there. We tried, and it just didn't work. So thank you anyway for putting up with us. And I hope that just giving you something to listen to in the meantime provided you some semblance of happiness.
please subscribe to us anywhere that you can find us on a podcast platform. Please rate us anywhere that they allow a rating. I think it will encourage us to do more and do better. You can find us on YouTube. We are, I think, just one episode away from having all of our catalog up.
Yay!
On YouTube, which is amazing. And wow, I never thought it would get there. And yeah, that's it. Thank you again. We appreciate you. Oh, you can find us on social media too. We're at Salt and Burn This everywhere.
Including Threads.
Yes, Threads, not
Yes.
X.
No, not yet.
Well, I mean, we are, I guess, on X.
We are on X,
So
but
Twitter,
my thing still hasn't changed over, so I'm still on Twitter.
Oh, you are? I haven't even checked it.
Oh, yeah. Mine still says Twitter. We're also on Mastodon, but not as much. So, I mean, if there's someone who's a Mastodon fan, let us know and we'll keep posting on Mastodon. But it didn't, it's a little hard to keep up on all of the platforms. And Mastodon just wasn't full speed ahead for us. But Threads, we're going.
Woohoo. Okay. And with that, we will say goodbye for this week and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.